Hey, it's Christopher here with another episode of What's Brewing, and today we're sitting down with Chief Vance Olivier with the Broussard Police Department for part 2 of his interview. But before we get into this, let's roll that beautiful B-roll. Hey, so we are back. Chief Olivier, thanks again for sitting down today.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to be here.
One of the things I love about living in Broussard is we ended up here about 6 years ago. Because I travel a lot, about 45 weeks a year, normally when it's not a pandemic. So literally my trips would come in on the weekend. We look at like 5 or 6 houses. And we thought Broussard was too rural. Because we were living in Lafayette at the time, right off College Saloon, right by Target. So like we're in the middle of the city, everything's near us. We're like, why would we move out to the country? And we ended up looking at a bunch of houses. And I came in one weekend and there was one where we live now, where we walked in and that's what I love about Broussard. When I walked out of the backyard, Mr. Cecil is my back neighbor. He has horses and chickens and goats. And I walked out and I said, this is our house. Like it's not our goats or chickens, so someone else take care of them, but I get to a beautiful view of this wooded area. Because living in Lafayette for, 10 years as well, I went from living in Ville Platte for 10 years to living in Lafayette for 10 years. Ville Platte's very rural. Lafayette's super busy where you're hearing your neighbors and the hum of the city, and then you move out to Broussard and it's a lot quieter, which we love. But one of the things that I've come to love about this city is that there's a growing amount of amenities and businesses and things that you can do here. More businesses are moving out here and I'm loving that. But at the same time, I feel like we've got that nice, quiet community culture. That's one of the things that I think I love about being here. So with that having been said, how do you feel like settling in here with Broussard? How have you felt like the adjustment is going from a different department to a different city? How's that been for you?
It's been great. I live here. I've been here 7 years also. And, I'm vested. I'm here to, my family's here, I'm vested here I'm vested in their interest to protect them, so coming from a larger city, the downfall is you really don't get a lot of time to spend with your community, and it's not by their fault. It's just the city's a big city. It's busy. Those guys go from call to call to call. Over here is, you have time to embrace your neighbors and embrace the public and kind of spend time with them. And you know what? That's building relationships. And that's kind of what I spoke about in the first video, building relationships. And that's what it's really all about, because you want to learn the business owner and learn who he is and know some things about him. And that helps you in your policing, so being able to spend time with a complainant and giving a personal time is invaluable. Yeah. So if you, that's the one thing that you didn't get to in Lafayette. You get a real big shot at doing it, and I'm not taking nothing away. I had a great career, and I enjoyed it, and there was great people in the police department. And the city of Lafayette has great people, but on a smaller community, you get more time. Yeah, it really is, and it's pretty nice, a pretty great feeling.
Yeah, and I think that's the way to say it. It's not better or worse, it's just different. Yeah. This series came about from me selfishly at a level, wanting to get to know Broussard a lot better and to hear the stories and to hear people talk about what they do and their struggles and the things that they get to do that they feel like they do well and what they love about Broussard. That's where What's Brewing really came about, was that idea of let's get to know people in our city because we can, where you don't always have that in a much larger environment. Again, no fault of its own, but when there's that many people, it's just a lot more challenging to do that on the kind of personal level here where I'm seeing people week after week after week and I'm getting to know them on a first name basis. Yeah. And I love that.
And I tell you what the great thing is, like one of the big things, we working with the mayor, working directly with him, with Public Works, with the fire department, just with all entities of the city has been really extraordinary, and them embracing me has been even better, and it's, in the city, you kind of did your job and you went about your business. Man, I'm open up to all the entities, seeing how, we in the meetings, all the code meetings, we in the council meetings every night. So you get to see the great things that are happening in Broussard. You know, it's growing, and the infrastructure is growing, and the businesses that are coming over here. And of course, with that, we want to grow too. You know, so in the future, that's one of the, we talked about goals in the first segment. Well, in this segment, I'll tell you that I'd like to grow the department because the city's growing. We have to grow to police them correctly.
Getting to know Mayor Ray and getting to know you and the police and the fire chief, I really, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, that's why we're excited to interview you. We really appreciate the leadership in this town. I think it's a rarity to have the quality of leadership that we have and the intentionality and the approachable kind of folks that we have. I think that's something that is special. I'm so thankful for it. I hope we can keep y'all for as long as we can, humanly possible. Like we're talking about change is not always good. That's kind of how I feel. I'm like, we've got it going good. Don't mess it up. We love it right now. Well, if you were to let the public know, what's one thing that they might not know about the work of the police force? So what's something that y'all do that maybe the general public just isn't aware of?
I think that they know it, but they don't realize that the long hours that we put in to make them safe and to provide them with a blanket of safety each night. That they go into it's spending. We talked about it, spending time away from their family. I mean that's tough. So they wear all hats. The people now in society, unfortunately, they rely on the police for everything. And I'm talking from the minor things to the major things. And I'm talking the neighbor's not cutting his grass. Is it a police matter? Maybe it's a matter of the city, codes or ordinances. But you know what? We still respond to them. We still got to, get out there and make sure that we entertain that complaint, and come to a solution. And maybe that's part of it sometimes. People don't understand, dealing with just a different variety of crimes that you have. Sometimes, they get upset in our decision making, but we have to work within the confines of the law, and all the things that go along with it. So sometimes our officers don't feel that they. I would say here in Broussard, I would say not, but most of the times they don't feel like they wanted or appreciated, I should say. But they really are, and that's what I kind of express to people every day. I said, hey, if you see one, tell them thank you. You know what I'm saying? Because without them, it would be lawless.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing I would stress, because it was one of the questions I was going to ask if it wasn't on the list. What can we do for you? We're often asking you to do for us, and certainly we appreciate what you do. But what can the community, do you feel like, do for the police force on a regular basis? So obviously appreciate. So yeah. I'll say that. Say thank you. Yeah. Acknowledge them, appreciate them. It's a hard job. What else can we do? I
think the biggest thing is one, embrace them. And another thing is I said it earlier, if you see it, report it. Yeah. It's kind of one of those things. We need the community's help, and we need them to solve crime. And if we don't get that help, it just makes it so much harder. But today's society with cameras and all that we have, all these tools and all these great things, it does help out. But really, getting out there and doing old-fashioned per se police work, that's what we got to get out and do. And that means hey, if you see something, tell us. If it looks minor, and we get that all the time. I'd get calls when I was in Lafayette on the desk, and I don't want to waste your time. You're not wasting my time. That's what I'm here for. Right. But you gotta call, when something happens. Because if we don't know about it, I really can't help you with the problem. And you call right then and there too. Don't call, wait 2 weeks later, and you
right. Say, the trail is cold at this point.
I don't know if I can help you with that. Yeah. So
one last question here. So this is a fun one. What are some things that movies or TV shows get wrong opposed to what it's actually like working in law enforcement?
Glad you asked that question. So I have a brother that's a police officer also, and my stepdaughter is a police officer, and they both worked in crime scene. My youngest daughter loves CSI. So I always said, I'd call them every once in a while, and yeah, hello, and I'm like, hey, why couldn't you always solve that crime in 40 minutes? They did it with commercials, And I said, why you didn't solve that? Anyway, I'd get the hang up right after that, so you never answered it. But that's kind of the misconception, crime doesn't get solved that easy. If you watch CSI or you watch any police shows, when they get involved in an incident, There's a lot of paperwork and a lot of other things that go into it. They don't just do the job, whether it's involved in a shooting, anything of that nature, and go back to work. So it's way off the mark right there. So that's the biggest things that not reality per se.
Yeah, it's DNA. It's like DNA fingerprinting. Like there's all that stuff's helpful, but it's if they're not in the database, then great. I now have fingerprints for someone whom I don't know.
They have some of the greatest equipment I've ever seen in my entire career, and it might exist out there, but man, on TV, wow.
The writers know how to solve problems in 40 minutes.
And I think my daughter would tell me that when I watch CSI all the time, she's like, "Dad, you can't solve that." I'm like, if you only knew.
If you only knew what it really took to do it.
A lot of work.
Well, Chief, thank you so much for sitting down for this two-part interview. We really appreciate everything you're doing.
Can't thank you enough. We appreciate it. Enjoyed it.
Well, everyone, thanks so much for tuning in again to another episode of What's Brewing. If you like this content, don't forget to like this video, hit that subscribe button, and click the notification bell to stay up to date with everything that we are producing. As always, we hope you're doing well. We hope you're staying safe, and we'll see you in the next one.